Hi, Joe.
Hello. How are
How are
you?
Not bad. Wondering who'll come up.
Yes. 2 minutes
We
past. 2 minutes past. See as people
the
fall in.
there's no time that suits everybody on the doodle like thingy.
Oh, I haven't looked at it since last week, but I did see that Steven said Fridays are really bad for him,
Yeah,
which does seem to have problems with the schedule.
we do. I was hoping we'd restore Monday, but the other that doesn't look too bad as things stands is Tuesday, except for Carl.
Let's see. Tuesday.
And there's a good one at Wednesday 2:30. That's a good window.
Oh yeah. Wait, are you seeing it in Central Time or your time?
Oh, sorry, I'm seeing it in my time. We're all
Uh,
seeing it in our time.
Okay.
This is time conscious.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like we've got, let's see. Oh wait, so if they're on here as options, does that mean that Bentley's here in time for the question? Does that mean that they work for Bentley? Because I don't see him who's voted on here.
That's a good point, but I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, I created the thing, so by default, my calendar is blocked off.
Okay. All right. So then, yeah, the Wednesday, there's some that has
Well,
everybody
there's no
except
unanimous date. The best five are, there's quite a few on Tuesday, including, and I'll give Eastern times, 12, 2:30, and 3. There's another one on Wednesday at 12 and 2:30.
and then Friday afternoon is like the everybody but
Thursday,
Steven, I think.
3 o'clock is there. Yay.
Oh yeah.
And then Friday afternoon, everybody but Steven. Yep. It's like, I'm really annoyed. Tuesday is everybody but Carl. It's
Yeah, it's still Carl and Steven who don't have an overlap. That's the problem.
Yep.
And it doesn't look like the 8 a.m. or the morning slot would be good anyway. I think that Carl said potentially it would work for before the daylight savings shift. But I don't think those are.
Having a kid doesn't make things easy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which
one thing we might consider, I don't know how many people will be open this, but just to have it alternating weeks and different times.
Not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, I mean, then everyone could have a time. It seems that'd be fine with me.
Sounds good to me as well, given the difficulty of consensus.
So with that, what would be the best times? I'm trying to pull up the.
So one of the times on Friday, in like the second half of Friday, and then like to include Carl, I guess, and then Mark Antoine just like mentioned a bunch of random Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday slots. There's like one on each day, I think.
Tuesday has a lot of good slots, like 12, 2:30, and 3. I think 2:30 is good because then it covers 3. And then there's a 2:30 slot on Wednesday as well.
Right.
I guess it doesn't matter much.
And there's a 3 on Thursday.
Which one other thing to kind of look at is which of those have availability on either side for most people, just to see at a time when calendars are more free.
Yeah, this is why I like the the Tuesday 2 o'clock, the 2:30, because 3 is also free. So we can presumably do an hour. And that's the only time where there's 5 contiguous. Oh no, also 2:30 Wednesdays is also 2 contiguous blocks. 2 contiguous
Oh, I
5
guess
blocks.
this is where the table view, I guess, is nicer.
Yes, I'm using the table view.
I
It's
was
useless.
not, so I was like covering every spot, like hard to do.
I mean, if the good thing about kind of doing either like Wednesday or Thursday is it's closer to the Friday time, so it's not like you have a short week and a long week, although it doesn't matter that much, but. So 2:30
Well,
Wednesday and
Thursday or
getting
Wednesday.
the 2. Wait, was there a spot on Wednesday that had 2 in a row?
Yeah, 2:30 and 3. They're not. It's not obvious because they're not. When you scroll, they're not contiguous.
Oh, you're right. I see.
Took me a time to
Yeah.
see it, but same pattern as Tuesday. Tuesday and Wednesday both have this contiguous 5 in a row. So that's.
I mean, we could go with that. Seems, I don't know, there's been 2 weeks to vote. I feel like it's a good number of votes here. He's got 7 of us.
Tim hasn't voted, which is ridiculous.
yeah.
Yep, it's problem at this point.
All
But
right.
that's another benefit of doing two slots is there's
They'll
better
probably
chance
make
for
one.
it.
Okay,
And they call them out. So what's the best time on Friday
Friday.
with the most availability on either side?
It's from 3 to 5. We have options.
Yeah, all of that seems to be everyone opens minus Steven. So maybe just the earliest slot. And then there's
Well,
plenty of
so
buffer,
on the 2 o'clock slot, I should find the link. I don't know why my email foo is not working. On the 2 o'clock slot, how many people are open? You know what I'm saying? If
No,
everyone's open on the 3, what's opener, the 2 o'clock or the 5 o'clock?
No. I said there's everything's open from 3 to 5. So 3, 3:30, 4, 4:30, 5 on Friday. There's
everybody's
5
available.
5 out of 6.
But then before that, there's not
Oh, okay.
everybody.
Yeah, then earlier probably be better.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I
3
think
o'clock.
3 o'clock Fridays. And let's make it Wednesday 2:30 because it's closer to Friday. An alternate weeks.
Okay, let's see, so. Starting. So let's start on next Friday instead of next Wednesday, or do we want to start on next Wednesday?
I like Friday. I haven't have next Friday off. So
Actually, Friday suits me better, but like having Wednesday because I have an appointment on that Wednesday, unlike the following one, which I can make sure doesn't clash.
actually realized I also have an appointment next Friday, but I don't remember what time it's at. 3:30. All right. Well, actually it's 3:30 my time central. So I would make the first half at least because that would be 4:30 Eastern. So it's probably fine.
Oh yeah, I'm quoting Eastern, right? All the time. I hope Bentley
Yeah,
you
yeah.
compensated.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It would be 12
Oh,
between 12
No, I
and 2.
wasn't, sorry.
Oh Lord. So between
Oh.
12 and 2. So 12 o'clock really. Friday.
Noon on Friday.
Noon on
Wait.
Friday.
What time are you
For
saying now?
Central.
Central? No. It's only 1 hour shift from Eastern, so it's 2 to 4 Central.
Maybe I should
on
just
Friday.
find the link.
Okay, let's say 12 Pacific, aka 2
Reds.
2 central,
Central.
aka 3.
And our official time zone is Central US. Well, well, we need to pick one because there is no US time zone.
There's no, that is true.
So I mean, we definitely want to be on the US daylight savings, not even Canada, because Canada is different still, or did we align?
I think I'm not sure anymore.
Anyways,
But yeah, I'll adjust.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry. So we decided for Central US, it's 2 p.m.
Yeah,
for an hour
on Friday for Friday.
on Friday, starting January 20th.
Yep.
Okay, and then the alternating weeks.
That means I have to change my appointment. March 12th, November 5th. Just
Would be Wednesday. So what time on Central? What time? Of day?
we're aligned
That's-
right now. Canada,
It's what?
US and Canada change time at the same time right now.
Okay, good.
Nice.
Finally got our stuff together.
For Central for Wednesdays, it's 1:30 to 2:30. So 1:30 and 2 were voted as everybody, minus Carl being good. Central.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I think I have the calendar updated correctly. Does anyone want to go and double check? Well, no, that's not looking right. Something's wrong. CDL general meeting. Oh, I put the Wednesday
I think
one on the wrong week.
Yeah.
General meeting, CDL, 1 week too late. You know, that is not what I chose, computer. I don't know where I got that.
Maybe make Pacific the reference point. It'll be easier for you, and it doesn't make a difference
Easier for who?
for you because you're setting the calendar.
Well, yeah, I'm Central though.
Oh, you're Central. Okay, fair.
Yeah.
I thought you were.
In Texas, the only state that matters. Let's see. What is this Google thing doing? It's not updating my changes properly. CDO general meeting. Okay, yeah, it is. Okay. All right. So the first Wednesday is on February 8th. And then next. No, that's wrong.
No, January 25th.
January 25th, yeah.
Although I see it alternating correctly, but there's an additional meeting on January 18th that I see. I don't think that's supposed to be there. Or maybe I just need to refresh.
Right. How did that happen? That must have been the wrong one and when I set it. Let's delete this event. Nope, that screwed everything up, didn't it? Maybe I just need to delete them all and start over. Let's do show only this display, only this calendar. Okay, let's look at today. We got a meeting today. Then it's Friday at 2 Central, and then it's Wednesday at 1:30 Central. 2, 1:30, 2, 1:30, 2, 1:30. Okay, I think I have it right. You might refresh and make sure.
Let me check. Yeah, it looks good. It's good to me.
Okay.
Oh, and then it changes after daylight savings? Was that automatic? Wait.
Let me make sure I'd have the right time zone and I didn't change it. I may still have it on central. Nope, time zone. That's that one. I may have the wrong time zone on the Friday one.
Well, it looks good for the first
Oh,
couple of weeks. It looks like in March is the daylight savings time.
yeah,
that gets
no,
raised,
it's the wrong time zone. I have it on. You know what? I'm just gonna delete them.
Oh, can you select central without the time zone so that like when it shifts, it stays at 2?
Well, it's just set at a different time zone. I had it set on GMT.
Yeah, which I think I don't think is a great idea. Finally,
Yeah, we all settled that last week. I'm just saying I haven't updated it yet.
yeah, I know. I wanted to be sure that it had stuck. You know how it is.
So, okay, let me just redo these. So, you know what? Just delete them all. Because I copied from one to the other, so that one has. Okay. So next Friday at 2. It's going to be our most boring one yet, video yet.
Yeah, well, we don't have to.
That's true. We don't even. Well, yeah, we could. Yeah.
I was going to say, do we have an agenda otherwise, other than settling the date? I don't have much to offer today, personally.
We could just scroll through the like goals doc that everybody filled out. Although we don't have everybody, so maybe it's better.
I think it's better when there's more actors. Yeah.
Right. I did ask 2 questions clarifying about your goals in particular.
Oh,
that
good.
just like definitions that maybe we could go over.
That is a good use of our common time. Yes.
2:30 on Wednesday Central Standard.
2:30 on Wednesday Central.
1:30.
1:30 Central.
1:30 Central. I said I was looking at it. I read it. All right.
Yeah.
If someone wants to just double check the calendar when they have a chance.
Yeah, looks good, and it's still good after.
Oh no, I didn't. I did 2 o'clock for Friday. Is that right? 2 p.m.
Yeah.
for Friday?
2
Okay.
2 Central. Yeah.
2 Central. Okay, good. Oh, that's right. All right.
Okay.
Does someone
Yes.
want to write this up and put it in Hangouts?
I will after the call, not during the call.
Okay. That's smart.
Just to go quickly over Joel's questions on the goals. The second question is just yes, so I won't spend time on it. The first one is progressive formula. What is progressive formalization? Something we've gone over a lot in this group, so it's absolutely worth putting you up to speed because it's a key concept. A lot of us are looking at the composition of claims into kind of formal logic-ish structure, like what are the hidden assumptions, what are cause and effect, decompose, things like that. And we totally agree that not everybody will know to do this. Not everybody will be used to it. And so we have to accept that some statements will get into the systems we build, which may not be in formal structured form, and that it will be some crowdsourced burden of others to make them structured or to match them to existing structured statements. So that's what we mean by progressive formalization, progressive structuration, but going from natural language to formal logic-ish, not necessarily predicate logic, not necessarily a specific formal logic, because we have many different ideas about what the building blocks are, but making things analytic, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah, and it might also like just other forms of formalization, right? Like just clarifying, someone says Paris, and do you mean Paris, Texas, Paris, France? stuff like that.
Okay.
So defining words and we realize there's a spectrum, and at some point it becomes a waste of time to go any more specific, but we don't know exactly where that is. And different claims will be in different layers of that in most systems. Like I'm not currently designing my system to explicitly handle that. Of course, you can edit claims, but some other systems, like what Marc-Antoine's working on, it has that explicitly built into the design to facilitate that properly, which I will steal at the appropriate time.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm curious. So have y'all, maybe I could look at a past video or something of like specific examples of like, I get the like, you know, the disambiguating or like definitions or something, but I guess I'm thinking more along the lines of like the philosophical logic, like and or like things like that into the argument.
We've been going over that a lot. Like, for example, I have enough mathematical logic to, oh yeah, we should use disjunctive normal form and that kind of stuff. But again, the question is, anything we demand, we have to teach, right? Because
right.
It's the most important aspect is making assumptions explicit, making and decomposing. Like if there's the difference between, for example, necessary and sufficient conditions, that's vital. You cannot avoid these distinctions. The distinction between if there's an argument, separating its truth from its relevance. It can be true but irrelevant. It can be relevant but you know.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of fine distinctions we think are essential, that, or many of us think are essential. We don't even all agree on everything. So do we allow combinations? And then the reality is some arguments actually rely on complex models. Like, for example, if we're talking about climate change, which is a favorite of everybody here, it turns out that a lot of the arguments require looking at an actual simulation model of the Earth and understanding the impact of this variable and the impact of that variable. That's obviously not going to be encoded. However, it makes sense to be able to reference this from the system and say, this has been found to have a significant impact, and measuring is out of scope. Another excellent example we've worked with that Tim introduced was during the pandemic. People saying the economic cost of shutdown will be higher than the health cost, the human cost of the disease. It's an argument. Again, it's not about agreeing, disagreeing, it's that trying to understand that argument. To understand that argument, you need to know, okay, what's your estimated economic cost overall? What's your estimated human cost, health cost, and what's your conversion factor? And you can have 20 different people with 20 different values of that triple who will make the same statement and absolutely not mean the same thing.
Right.
And that is part of the, what do you mean by this?
So maybe like for some feature in this would just be like allowing you to be more specific or like break down until you get to the same definition, or until it's like distinct enough that you realize you're not talking about the same thing. Or
yeah. What I'm looking at a lot these days is a kind of, basically when you're dealing with distinctions, at worst they form a power set, but in practice they form a lattice, which is mathematical structure with basically subset and supersets. And there's something called formal concept analysis, which explicitly uses lattice structure for establishing distinctions. Now, of course, again, the lattice is not something most people will be familiar with. But the intuition behind it is that some distinctions are encompassed by other distinctions, and you want to know that instead of doing the power set of all possible distinctions. And in theory, 20 questions, you have most concepts. In practice, there's a few more bits than that, right? When you allow higher order concepts and composites and this and that and the other, and nuance and context. And so what are the, like, in a way, what you'd want is a kind of statistical analysis. When people say this, they might mean one of 20 things, but most people can be divided into two big camps according to this one distinction that separates people into very disjoint camps. And after that, it's nuance, and there's a lot of overlap. So finding these, and that's a statistical analysis problem, right? I don't have the answer to that yet, but the idea that some distinctions will really drive a wedge, whereas others are just kind of nuance, and most people will be okay with glossing over some of the other changes and make it into a kind of, I don't know if you've done dichotomous binary tree, binary search in botany, right? If it has, if the leaf has so many edges, then go to this section. It's a kind of choose your own adventure book, but for identifying trees. But the idea is, let's find the most easy to recognize distinguishing features that allow you to partition the search space, knowing that they don't fall into neat taxonomical categories, but it doesn't matter. We're partitioning the search space. We're not trying to follow the cladistic. We're trying to help people find the plant in the fewest questions and with the most easy to recognize features.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's, as I said, a statistical work. But the construction is a bit independent of that statistical work. It's saying, how can we distinguish concepts using explicit distinctions? Like, what is the distinguishing characteristic?
Right. So then,
yeah.
I guess, regarding, in parentheses, you have inclusion, pluralism, diversity. Is that just like to handle those kinds of things? Like, you know, when you have a diverse audience, you have more perspectives, so you need this like kind of formalization more.
Yes, absolutely. See, a lot of, how should I put it? There's a lot of knowledge graph efforts, especially for science, that are looking for what are the true statements, right? And yeah, sure, in a scientific context, it makes sense. Or what are the most plausible according to evidence, you know, which is already more nuanced. When you're looking at social discourse, it's like, which statements are broadly believed, totally marginal, or a bit of both, and hence divisive. These are the main there's a quadrant really, right? Believed, disbelieved by how many people. Some are not believed or unbelieved or disbelieved by most people. They're kind of unknown or, you know, outside of the zeitgeist. And some are, you know,
believed. So they're like widely accepted.
Broadly believed and not disbelieved. So that's consensus. Broadly disbelieved, not believe, and not many believe. That's marginal. But broadly believed and disbelieved, that's a divisive statement, a polarizing statement. So this is what I'm calling social. It's the first step of what I'm calling social truth. The notion that we're looking at something a bit more nuanced than just true false. Here we're looking at what's the social support and what's the reasons to believe that. And some reasons are in terms of evidence, and some reasons are in terms of emotional appeal. And the emotional appeal, again, why is that appealing? Well, we can get into all kinds of other considerations. Psychology doesn't matter, you know, it's or something else. It doesn't matter what. But again, why do people believe this? Was it it was Carl, right, who did this very interesting analysis of Bayesian. Was it Carl or anyway?
I think, Carl.
Yeah, he basically said if in a way there's something called Bayesian belief is how much does believing fact A versus disbelieving fact A, how much does it alter your belief in the likelihood of fact B? Right? If I told you without shadow of a doubt A is true, or without shadow of a doubt A is false, how does that affect your fact B? And then there's a link in your mind. Again, may have nothing to do with reality and causality and evidence, but is there a link in between those two beliefs in your mind and his mind and my mind? And this is again a social phenomenon.
Interesting. Huh. I was just Googling Bayesian. I think that's a comment. Just from
Bayesian is common.
lurking.
Yeah, no. Let me get you the. Believe I think it's Bayesian.
And it's funny because a lot of times, like what I'm doing is called Bayesian, but it's similar, but it's far enough away that I don't think anyone that does Bayesian reasoning would say it is. But yeah, and we're gonna throw around a lot of terms like that, so keep asking. That's really good.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, we need to put our dictionary online, and at some point, I don't know if that's even in there because we kind of
No, it came after.
we didn't have any disagreements. We just look it up, but it'd be good to have a link.
And now Tim needs to do the work to register CDL as a nonprofit, so we have more than 30 days search in Slack. Damn it.
Right.
Oh, is that wait? So as I know, there's like for like open source maintainers, you get a bunch of free stuff. Is that like there's similar things for nonprofits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
But you have to go through the legwork of the admin of it, and Tim has been busy. And Tim owns the nonprofit papers. So
CDL exists as a nonprofit right now?
Yep.
Okay.
As far as I know.
I probably saw that somewhere, but I totally didn't remember that. Nice.
I don't know where he is in processing the paperwork or doing all that.
Yeah,
but I don't remember. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it was understood that he was, but it's true that I didn't ask point blank. But the way he said it, it's like, I have to tell Slack about our nonprofit status, not I have to get nonprofit status.
Okay.
That's what I remember, but I may misremember. It's not a non-occurrence.
So I guess back to the Bayesian definition, does it just mean there's some like relation from like separate information to another piece of information, that there's just like, this does claim A affect claim B at all? Or like, I don't know, it sounds like just Google Bayesian inferences allows one to combine prior information.
And it was Jonathan Warden. Apologies to Jonathan. And I found the link.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to be careful at what level they're writing when they explain Bayesian, because that definition is for someone who already has some context. And that's not a description, that's not like, how would you explain to a 5-year-old is kind of what we need.
Which is a different.
Make any assumption.
But beautiful work by Jonathan there.
Well, I could probably read this
Offline.
separately. Yeah. Cool.
I don't think I've read this one.
He asked us for comments at some point. Oh, and I haven't commented on your latest. Apologies.
Yeah, and I would change his description too. Although the way I describe it probably wouldn't fit what most people say, but I mean, in general, it's like, oh, I have a belief. I kind of state a number to it. As I get more information, I raise and lower that number. And there's an actual formula to say how much you're supposed to raise and lower, and that's the Bayesian formula.
Oh,
That a pretty simplified.
that sounds very similar to like, not that I've worked with machine learning a lot, but like neural networks, I know there's like a gradient and you like can change the amount you adjust based on like your learned.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to that. It's just they'll adjust a whole bunch of different nodes and then in a graph, and then they'll have those go to other nodes. So the individual nodes are populated, but in Bayesian, it's just like, oh, I have this one belief number and I adjust it up and down.
Okay.
But Bayesian is about computing, like giving a number to the relationship between the two beliefs, saying what is the probability of A given B, and as opposed to the probability of A without knowledge about B, and distinguishing how does knowing about B tell me about A.
Yeah, but to make use of that, how those two relate. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a meta. I don't think that's the final goal of it. The final thing is what's my updated assessment on the truth, right?
Yes.
But yeah, you do have to, part of the formula is figuring out how much should this new data affect my old score.
Yeah.
And seeing reason score is very similar, except the prior is always 100% true. And I could explain why that's true. And then, or why it does that. And then as you add information, it recalculates based on all the information rather than just adjusting the number based on new info. But it's similar in the fact that it has scores that update as you get more information.
And what I'm saying is the Bayesian would like to basically, you're setting some of the joint probability probably to 0 or 1 in your formula to simplify, and Bayesian likes to quantify the other ones. The question is how much.
Yeah, I mean, I have to put them at 1, otherwise you can't.
It's very hard to know.
There's no intuition built into the system, so I'm not allowed to set a number.
Exactly.
Well, later on I'm putting it, and mathematically you can only set them to 1. If you set them to 0, there's no way to ever make it go up. You can make things go down. In the subset of math I'm using, which, like to Marc Antoine's point, he's saying, well, there's all these different ways to logically do it. And it's like, I'm just experimenting with one right now, one of those ways. So all that will change when we expand it, because I don't have any ands or ors, and you can do necessary and sufficient based on how you put things in the tree, but it's not explicit in the model.
Unless you get into jointly sufficient or jointly necessary, and then basically it's a more complex formula. It's not as simple, and basically you need to, and then you get into real causality study. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Judea Pearl on causality, which
no,
I recommend reading about. It's very useful and fascinating stuff. But basically, Pearl is sometimes you have, when you have a probability network where factor A impacts factor B by this much, and factor B impacts factor C by this much, and you can do a graph of how the factors. And sometimes if you're just looking at, there's so-called hidden nodes. There's things you cannot measure, right? So what you have is known measurements about, oh, this is absurd values of A, B, and C. So I think the causality network is like this, but I'm not sure which way it runs, and I'm not sure of a lot of things. And are there hidden nodes or blah, blah, blah. And what he's come up with is basically, well, sometimes you can discover the causality by kind of forcibly clamping one value and intervening on another and see how the propagation goes. And he's basically said, if you want to distinguish between 2-3 different networks, he's got a mathematical apparatus that will say, here's the experiment you need to do. Here's what you need to clamp. Here's what you need to vary. Here's how you would distinguish between those networks that are not distinguished by the data you have. Here are the interventions you need to do to get the new data you need to distinguish those alternate network configurations.
Hmm.
So that's the work of Julia Pearl. It's there's a kind of layman's version called Science of Why, I think, and which is a book, and there's other books which are more mathematical, causality, and so on. I'm in a reading group around, like, a lot of scientists are using that a lot now, because basically they have these reams of data. It's like, okay, what actually causes what? And when we're speaking about gene expression, they're very complex causal networks, and they have to use this kind of heavy machinery to understand, to make sense of the data they have.
Right, makes sense. Cool. Yeah,
So
I found the
that's-
book, but I guess book might be hard to get through all as well. But
the Science of Why is very readable. The causality one is heavy going, but the reason of why is very readable, and you'll get something out of it, definitely.
good. Cool.
I got a few questions, but Joel, if you have more.
I think that's at least regarding the ones I had ahead of time. I asked one to Carl as well, and he was just like, "Yep, that's what he meant." So,
Oh, sorry, it's the Book of Why, not the Science of Why.
yeah, Book of Why, the new science of cause and effect.
Yeah,
it's in there.
Good.
Okay,
You're on
cool.
the right. I wanted to be sure I hadn't misled you. Science of Why by J. and Graham, I don't know about it. But the Book of Why is by Julia Pearl, the author himself.
Nice.
So,
Okay. Yep.
So the stuff, just to kind of mention what I'm working on in case anyone wants to
Go for it.
participate. I'm trying to make some videos on specific topics. Well, I guess two things. One is, we're doing a lot of stuff in theory, and we've talked about in the past how it's good to have examples. So over in another group called Open Global Mind, some people wanted to do what's called sense making, which is kind of what we're doing to some extent, depending on your interpretation of those words. And so it was coming together and picking a topic and practicing making sense of it. And I thought, I could use some of our tools or processes, and then that would be kind of a practice. And so making it to, whoever wants to participate. So one of the side things might be for us, for some of us to get together and, pick a topic, dig into it and stuff, and practice using that with our tools and give us some real world wall to throw the spaghetti at. So I don't know if that sounds interesting. I know Mark Antoine, you're kind of interested in that, although you're really busy.
It's definitely something that interests me, and it's definitely, I have to prioritize. Okay, so yeah, let me think.
And one of the caution that the other group has been doing is they're always like, okay, what tool are we going to use? And I'm like, pick a topic. There is no one tool that rules them all. Let's not even talk tools. Let's just talk through and find a topic first. And then we can use multiple tools, one tool, some tools. Assuming it's not, Mark Antoine and I have had previous conversations, because some people were wanting to look at a specific issue, and Mark Antoine has a tool that would have helped with that. But I think kind of coming at it broad-wise, and then we can decide for one time to use a tool, rather than choosing the hammer first and then finding a nail.
Right. Yeah. I guess I have initial curiosity in this. I think I'd be curious what the commitment would be like, but generally, like for my tool, I already have like a massive list of like deficiencies that I know that like aren't handled yet, and like I think it'd be most valuable for me once I have those figured out, and then to do this kind of thing to like see what else is, you know,
Do you have
needs
a good
improvement.
feeling for the prioritization of those issues?
But
Because that's another thing that an experiment like this would do. So if you prioritize those tasks.
well, I have right now a bunch of things that I have in this milestone of like minimally usable that like
Mhm.
without these things, it's like you can't do a whole lot of value from the tool. So it's like it's more, I don't know, I have like a kind of a
Yeah.
rough prioritization, but
The-
it's not like
Yeah. The other kind of goal of this is, one of my goals is to have an artifact that comes out of this that could be used in any, hopefully not every tool, but in most of our tools. So it might be just a general argument tree and in Miro or some other graphing thing or a Word doc or something. So then we would have some kind of closer to real world examples for us to play with our tools with when they're ready. Because I'm not going to be sitting in the meeting and putting it in Reason Score, I don't think. I don't know.
okay, so it'd be like, well, pick a topic and then we asynchronously people can like fill things out in the tool as far as, you know, whatever tool they want, and then like meeting can maybe discuss like results of each person's tool, or like use the tool in the meeting to like facilitate discussion or something. I don't
Well,
know, I guess.
I guess it's not even right tool focused. So it would be regular meetings to pick up a topic. A topic could span multiple meetings, and you're going through and trying to find a debate, and then you're collecting evidence or reasons or ways to talk about that debate into a document. And some people may choose to use tools synchronous or asynchronously while that's happening.
I see.
So then the end result is we have several artifacts that have informations, and one of those is probably an argument map, which then could be used to test out our tools. But I don't see as tools being the center of the thing. The more thing is the information gathering. So it's more like a research group, I guess. And both do synchronous and asynchronous work.
Yeah, I think having raw material, and I said, oh, but it doesn't have this. Well, that's the whole point of progressive formalization, right? This is informal for me, but that's raw material. The point of tools is to formalize, but you don't need formalization to collect data and to process it, to have initial processing. So yeah, but where, how should I put it? The question is, do we want, where the tool choice matters is if we want to crowdsource the formalization process. I don't have the resources to formalize a whole bunch of data that I receive. It's something I'd want to be able to do at some point, but I'm not there yet. On the other hand, I mean, I'll never refuse data. I just can't commit to analyzing it according to my methodologies for which the tools are still being built anyway. That's the other thing. I'm not ready. So yeah, I'm all for collecting data. And then what I keep saying to people is what's important is to be able to do internal references to data, because then we'll be able to talk about it. Like if we put it, for example, on a web page, then we can use hypothesis to speak about this little sentence here, which you can't do otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important, being able to pinpoint exact sections of the data to say, this is
Yeah,
what
I
we're
mean,
talking about.
there will need to be some tools in use. I mean, we'll need a chat client so people can sync up and schedule meetings and maybe post things they've found. And then some sort of editable, kind of centralized document or 2 or 3, right? But choose those, in the meeting based upon the needs and where everyone's at, rather than making that a preference or a starting point. Yeah, so I guess to move that forward, I probably just need to pick a date and a time and just put an invite in CDL and an invite in there and see who shows up.
Yeah, sounds right.
I guess I could look at our availability now that we have it, and I can make
Yeah.
something semi-available. So I might do that.
I have a hard stop, so
Yeah.
unless we have other meetings, I think it's good to adjourn.
It's probably good. Well, thanks for showing up again, Joel. Glad we didn't scare you away.
Yep. I appreciate this. Look
This-
forward to what we talk about next
There's
time.
there was more energy at not more, but more people
Yeah.
committed at a certain point. I'm a bit sad that you're seeing it in this state. But
Yeah, it ebbs and flows.
yes,
And yeah, and yeah, and there's a lot of terms still thrown out that I don't either fully don't understand, or I just have to simply look up every time because that doesn't stick. So that's just, we have a lot of people coming from quite a few different disciplines and parts of the world in some places. So no prior knowledge needed, just willingness to ask questions. So I think we're good.
Sweet.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys Friday afternoon next week.
yep.
Sounds good.
Ciao, ciao.
See you.
All the best.